What's up, guys? So, a lot of people in the RimWorld community are probably already aware of the new game Stranded Alien Dawn. It's been called a sort of 3D RimWorld, but I figure many of you might not have heard of it yet. It came out of early access about a month ago, and now that I've been playing it on my Twitch stream a few times, have about a dozen hours in it, I wanted to showcase it here and kind of share my honest thoughts on it. First up, to get the point out of the way, I really do enjoy this game, but it is not a true 3D RimWorld, mainly because there are no raids of hostile people, which is a big part of RimWorld, obviously. The threats are due to environmental events and hostile alien animal attacks. However, I actually do think that makes it a more realistic, like sci-fi crash-landed simulation, since if you actually crashed on an alien planet, the likelihood of there being other humans there is slim, and the threats would definitely be environmental. Plus, harvesting organs and making armchairs out of your enemies becomes a little bit more fucked up when people have avatars like these. So maybe it's for the best. So when you first load into the game, right away we can see the art is going to be beautiful. Right now I have the graphics turned up to high, not ultra, so they do get a little bit better than this, but I'm concerned with my computer's ability to handle it because, you know what, I do not have the newest rig around, shall we say. But already, you know, I'm in love just from this first opening scene. So let's get into this game. All right, so when you start a new game, first you can pick your scenario. The default one is crash landing. You start with 4 people and, you know, just kind of some basic emergency supplies that you're able to scavenge from different parts of the wreckage. And your mission is to find a way back to civilization, which I have not accomplished yet, so I'm not really sure what that would actually look like. There's also the trade outpost starting scenario, which I think is really cool. So in this one, you land with 3 people intentionally and establish a trade outpost. So your goal is basically to acquire resources on the planet and then sell them to ships in orbit. Your landing pod will actually travel back and forth between your outpost and orbit to trade, and your goal is to acquire enough galactocoins, which is the currency, to buy the deed to the planet that you're on. And then there is the military outpost scenario where you land with 6 team members, and your goal is to build a core communication relay to enable interstellar communication in the sector. So having these like different goals does give the game a good feeling of a lot of variety. But for the purposes of this video, we will kind of be exploring the crash landing one. So then you pick your location. Now, region is basically what biome environment you're gonna land in, and there's only 2. So I'll talk about this a little bit later, but this is something that I feel is one of the game's main shortcomings, is the fact that there's only these 2 biomes. I'm really hoping that later game updates will introduce additional ones. So you have a desert. Okay, I just have to quickly interrupt myself. I loaded into a desert colony to get some desert footage, and this is going to give me nightmares. What? Absolutely not. And then like a temperate biome. The moon is, for lack of a better word, like your storyteller. We're just gonna do balance. You know what, maybe we'll do chaos. And then modifiers, you can control the game difficulty, and it also impacts what you start with. Seed, the maps are different every time based on the seed, so let's do seed. And then game rules are a kind of interesting addition here. Some of them make it easier, some make it harder. They're just kind of unique challenges. And now we'll choose our colonists. So there are 34 pre-designed colonists, and they have traits that affect other colonists as well. And you can see they have these like very realistic avatars, which personally I really like, because for me, the big draw of this game is that it has realistic graphics. It's beautiful to look at. And so I feel like if we had too cartoony of avatars, it defeats the purpose. I might as well just play, you know, a 2D game at that point. And I do want to mention again, the game is moddable via the Steam Workshop. There are already a couple mods out there that add additional colonists, or additional survivors, I should say. I want to be in the game. Any modders want to add me in with good traits? So just to kind of give like a sample of these, we will not go through all of them. But Annette, for example, her traits are calming. This is an example of a trait that affects other people. She's able to calm them down from mental breaks. She also makes other people happy by cheering them up, but she is a slowpoke. And then you can see her skills over here. The max skill level in this game is 10. Indifferent means that they'll get bored while doing that task. Carter learns skills twice as fast but needs to relax twice as often. That's a no. I like Connor. Has permanently decreased happiness. We're removing you, we're adding Raka. Okay. I love this key art, by the way. It just gives me such an excited sci-fi feeling when I look at it. I don't know, I love it. It's like, I'm so sorry to bring up RimWorld again, but you know, most of us are RimWorld fans here. It's like RimWorld fan art taken to the next level. Okay, so right away, you can hear other parts of the ship impacting. How fucking cool. Excuse my language. I'm trying not to swear as much on YouTube, but like, I just love this. Okay, Raka's having a meltdown right now. Everybody's coughing. Oh, catharsis, plus 50, good. Okay, so he got it all out crying. I love how Samantha's looking around like, damn, where are we? And check out these animals over here. Bloated insects. I would immediately run for the hills if I saw this thing in the distance. Sorry, let's just take a quick look at this because it's gonna give me nightmares. I said that like I haven't seen it before, but look at it. Look at its teeth. Absolutely not. Okay, let's go back to these yahoos. So I'm not gonna get into the UI because like I said, the tutorials are really good and I also feel like the UI is fairly intuitive. And this isn't a tutorial, you know, this is just my honest thoughts. But there are two things in the UI that I want to call attention to because I really like the way that they are done is first of all, the health tab. So if we go to a colonist, Samantha, for example, like I said, all fairly intuitive, but we go to health tab, it will actually highlight in red or yellow parts of the body that have issues. And when you hover over it, it tells you the problem. So right now our lungs not looking too hot, smoke inhalation because of the crash, and we have some mild pain because of that. This is such a great way to instantly get an overview of how damaged someone is after like an animal attack or something. The other thing that I like is that in this restrictions tab, you can allow what people are allowed to consume in terms of, you know, food, medicine, and leisure activities right away, and also set like whether or not they're gonna automatically fight back or flee, whether or not they will sleep on the ground if their bed is too far away, or if they'll like traverse all the way back to their bed, and same with the eating on foot. Will they eat on foot or will they walk all the way back to a table? One thing I do want to show though, okay, so if you hover over raw food, click it to expand, there's nothing. We haven't discovered any resources fitting this group yet. So that is the huge thing that I love about this game so far, is the discovery aspect. If you select a plant or animal, which we've done a few times, but like down here, it just describes what it looks like. We don't have a description of it, and we don't have a name of it, because my people do not know what it is. This is an alien planet. We just landed here. You have to observe it to learn about it, and this is separate from a research task. So look at him go. So Raka's almost done observing this squash plant. He spent all day studying it, but let's just take a moment to appreciate the graphics of this alien planet. While he's almost done too, this map is pretty large. Like I said, the maps are different every time, depending on the seed, but I mean, they're big. It's not like it's just that area. There's a lot to explore. Oh, look, he finished. Okay. So since he finished observing it, you can click the discovery, it pops up. This local vine plant gives large edible fruits which have a tough peel. It reminds me of pumpkins and melons, so I will call it buttermelon. So whoever finishes the observation actually names it. They explain why. Ripe buttermelons can be harvested and cooked. They might have some other good uses too. This unlocks harvesting a buttermelon and planting a buttermelon. So I absolutely love the way discovery works. Every single plant and animal, when you land, your pawns have to, your survivors have to observe in order to, you know, learn what their name is and learn what their uses are. Oh God, it just started pouring rain. There are obviously a finite number of plants and animals, but they are different based on whether you land in the desert or temperate biome. Look how cute this little baby is. So, you know, the discovery isn't endless once you've done a few colonies, but the biodiversity seems pretty good so far, and I think that mods will increase it drastically, or I hope it will. Okay, so my survivors have been very patient with me, just bumbling around. It's 4 a.m., everyone's just standing around, oh God. Okay, We'll go ahead and just set up our, maybe I want to move my base camp down though. I feel like high ground is a smarter spot. I don't know, but this is just prettier down here by the water. So I think I am going to build my initial shelter down here. Okay, so right off the bat, there is research that will unlock, there is research that will unlock different technologies, but you have a limited number of like structures you can build so far. So we're just gonna start with a initial shelter. We're gonna do it out of scrap metal, which I will get from salvaging spaceship parts. I think we'll just put our shelter here, and it will like naturally expand if you stack them next to each other. And we're gonna have to deconstruct some scrap metal here. Go ahead, scavenge that. Scavenge that. So it automatically shows like the inside of buildings, but you can toggle that off and on with this like house button up here. So we'll go ahead and have the roofs on. And right away, without using any materials, we can add in sleeping spots. So while he's doing that, we should also set up a stockpile zone. They look like this. They actually have to be constructed. And you can set the storage for each stockpile zone. It defaults to everything. An issue is that there's no way to set the priority of a stockpile zone. So I'm really hoping that that gets added in an update, because it doesn't really matter right now, but once we get more stuff, it really impacts like inventory management when you can't set priorities. Once you observe a plant, so for example, the buttermelon that we discovered, you can farm it. So that is how you unlock different crops. So this will expand to be like multiple different categories, not just food crops, as you observe and discover more plants. But food crops right now, buttermelon is the only one that we've discovered. And when you click it to place the zone, you can see an overlay of basically fertility. Now, the reason that this isn't like a permanent overlay that you can turn on is because it actually depends on what plant you're trying to put down, because different plants have different ideal growing conditions, which I absolutely love. So buttermelon, for example, it looks like is going to grow best in loam, you know, only grows 75%, its normal rate in silt. In clay over here around the water, only 50% growth, and then there's some patches of red that are in fertile soil. So let's go ahead. Looks like we got a patch of good green kind of for buttermelon right here. Maybe I'll make our little farm right here. I love how it lines in pebbles as well. So we've had this little alert pop up about our first threat. It is an animal attack. First of all, I did not equip weapons to anybody. It's classic. So Samantha's gonna come equip this laser pistol, and then we're gonna draft her, and she's gonna fight off these insects for me. Oh God. Okay, she just destroyed those in no time at all. Whispered to Samantha that the crash was intentional. Okay. Does he have some sort of scheme? Okay, so down here, you'll see that we have a bunch of tabs we haven't really looked at. If we go to the defense tab, you can see there's some pretty limited options right now, but I really like them. There's meat lures that you can set out to attract aggressive animals to come to a specific point when they go to attack. There are traps, and then there's fences and fence doors. So in order to expand our defenses, along with pretty much all these other categories, storage, furniture, light and heat, and power options and things like that, production bench options, we're going to have to create research. So conducting actual research is done at a research desk, which you would create in the science tab. But whether or not you can research something is sometimes dependent on your field observations and discoveries so far. For example, for leather armor, not only do we need to research tailoring first, but we also need to find or produce leather in the game before we're able to even research leather armor. So let's go ahead and queue a few things up. I am going to get started on construction basics because this will allow us to actually build structures. So you can also set jobs and jobs priorities using the manage menu and then activities tab, either simple priorities or, more advanced priorities, along with schedules. These are all kind of mechanics that are going to be familiar to anybody in the Colonist simulation genre. So aside from the discovery aspect, discovering all these new things that we, have yet to do on this map, we've barely scratched the surface. I feel like the biggest draw of the game for me is the base building. So now that we've researched construction basics, we have a new tab called housing, and you can see it's unlocked all this stuff. Now, I know we see stairs. This game, it does have Z levels in the sense that it's 3D, your pawns can move up and down in space, but you cannot stack rooms on top of each other. So you could build stairs like up a mountain and build a room up there, or have a building elevated with stairs up to it, but you wouldn't be able to have multiple rooms underneath each other in the same building, if that makes sense. Let's just put down a nice little cabin so my people can start sleeping indoors. You'll notice too that we can put in windows. Let's go ahead and do some wood windows. As you research, more things, you can unlock more types of building: concrete, brick, carbon, concrete fortifications, force fields, more types of defenses. Okay, so we have our little base coming along. But what about, planetary exploration? Well, you can research and then construct a hot air balloon to go on expeditions to investigate other sites that might pop up. So for example, we're traversing across this huge map, and there is this thin plume of smoke on the horizon. And we'll see that we actually have an expedition to investigate that. Let's go ahead and send you. Why not? We've actually located another survivor. So do we want to welcome them to our camp or leave them behind? Let's welcome them. All right, it's Daniel. Let's see what Daniel brings to the table. He has an irritable bowel. Incapable of combat. Interesting. He's a genius. Okay. So unfortunately, these bugs are really tearing apart my base. And I wasn't paying attention because I was really fixated on building this platform over here. And I did not see that 9 bugs were attacking us. Raka is having a medical emergency. Oh. Can you please heal Raka? Let's see if we get more good sound effects. Yeah. Oh my god. This is the best part of the game. Is Samantha gonna die? Okay, well anyway, that was a shit show. But as you get further in and research more stuff, you can build some pretty impressive bases. You can just check out these screenshots on Steam, for example. I haven't built anything this impressive yet. I only have about, I want to say 14 hours in the game right now, and I've spent a lot of that just screwing around, discovering stuff or having people at the cusp of death like this. So my overall thoughts on this game. There are some pros and some cons. The pros are, first of all, the graphics. I really love them. I think the maps are beautiful. It is so cool to see, different alien plants and animals in such detail. And keep in mind, I don't have my graphics all the way up. What is that? Oh, I forgot I built a didgeridoo. He's rocking out with the didgeridoo for some leisure. Okay, maybe my favorite part of the game is the didgeridoo. All right, but in all seriousness, another big pro is the discovery mechanic. I think it gives the game a really exciting feeling. Another pro is that I think it's pretty easy to learn to play and enjoy. There's not a humongous learning curve at all. So I actually think it's a lot more accessible intro to colony simulations. Oh my god, Samantha died. Oh god. We can butcher her? Have Raka do it. Okay, so he's just stripped her. Oh my god. Raw human meat. Alright, let's see how he feels about that. He's upset. Do other people care? No. And he's playing the didgeridoo now, so, Okay, so there are clearly some RimWorld-esque things that we can do in this game. Okay, so as I was saying, another pro. I guess that's a pro, or is it a con? I think it's a pro. I also, the big pro for me, obviously, is the base building. I think it allows a lot of room for creativity if that is something you enjoy doing. Now, let's talk about the cons. The biggest con to me is that the game is lacking a little bit of depth. This is due to a few different things. So a big one is that there are only 2 biomes so far. To me, I feel like any game with different biomes feels like it needs at least 4. With additional biomes, of course, would come more discovery, more biodiversity. The game would feel a lot deeper. I can see it becoming repetitive after maybe 40 to 50 hours due to there being only 2 biomes to explore and discover. There's also the capped colony growth at 8, which I think is fine, but not if it's also paired with lack of depth in other areas. So I feel like that is a little bit of a con in this case. There's also the lack of hostile humans, which, like I said, I think some people that's going to be a really big con. It doesn't particularly bother me. I think the animal attacks are difficult to contend with anyway, and I feel like it lends some realism to this as like a crash landed situation. 2 very smaller issues. One is, like I mentioned, stockpiles currently do not have priorities. I feel like that is a big convenience thing. And then I also would really like greater zoom distance control. So I'd like to be able to zoom out further, and I'd like to be able to zoom in closer. This just feels like I should be able to get out and in more, you know? Bottom line, is it a true 3D RimWorld? Absolutely not. Is it still enjoyable and worth playing? I think so, for me personally. But let me know your thoughts. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you soon. Until then, take care of yourself.